back to NJCDC's The Loft, and we're here with Miss Fantasia. I'm a YDS ICP for life, and I have my two students here.
Hello, I'm Steven Ostos. This is my fourth, maybe third time being here. I'm a student at JFK.
My name is Reynaldo Gonzalez. I am a junior at John F. Kennedy High School, and this is my second time here.
Okay, today we're going to be talking about Martin Luther King Jr. since his birthday just passed and his day is coming up. We're going to talk about his impact on the civil rights movement and who he was as a person. Do you guys have, you know who Martin Luther King Jr. is, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so learning about him in school, did you ever think the lessons became repetitive, or it was something that you needed to know?
For me, I usually learned about him in elementary school. When I got to high school, I stopped learning about him as much, which is kind of disappointing because, I don't know, I feel like when I learned about him in elementary school, it was really cool to see how much he impacted other people's lives and stuff at the time.
Right. What about you, Ronaldo?
Yeah, same answer as Steven. I've learned about him in elementary school, but high school, I haven't been learning about him ever since.
So in elementary school, what topics did they touch upon?
Well,
that you can remember?
I don't remember much, but I do remember him just giving his "I Have a Dream" speech. Obviously, we watched the movie, My Friend Martin.
I have to.
I mean, at this point, that movie's pretty much iconic. That's the best way to show children what Martin Luther King did for people without showing them any of I guess the gruesome and violent stuff that they said, even though they did show that they see that his assassination off camera.
Did you watch the movie My Friend Martin?
No, they haven't showed it to me in schools. They haven't been showing me that movie.
Okay, so the movie My Friend Martin was about two kids, an African-American student and a white student, going to visit Martin Luther King's house. And when they get there, they turn a watch and they go back in time. Right. They follow Martin throughout his life and actually brings him back to present time. Mm-hmm. When they bring him back, the world is, without his impact, the world is bad for other African-American or people of color because they didn't understand that without Martin being there, that things wouldn't have happened for us. When, like he said, the assassination was off camera because it was a cartoon animation for kids, so they didn't want to show Martin Luther King being killed. Mm-hmm. But it just was to show students of any race or gender that the impact that he had in the 50s, the 60s, without him being there, some people have a purpose in life and a job to fulfill. So without him being there, a lot of things that we take as, and I would say, for granted, it wouldn't have happened without him being in place to make it.
I've seen partial clips of it because of the movie, obviously. I've never seen the actual recording of his "I Have a Dream" speech.
Right, so it was in Washington. I don't really know the exact place it was in, but I remember it was at least probably close to 1 million people there. Another activist, Malcolm X, actually was at the speech as well. And it was one of the biggest speeches, not just for Black people, but in the world. What did his message mean to you when you learned about what he said in the speech?
I guess the way I could put it is that when I looked, after watching the movie, I did look around and kind of see the mixed colors in my classroom at the time. And I guess my first thought was, if it wasn't for Martin, I wouldn't have some of my friends that I have right now.
Right.
But I'm glad that he did what he did. Otherwise, maybe it could have been worse. But luckily, he was in our lives. It wasn't in mine, but I just like to think about the impact.
For me, I would say, yeah, I'm glad that he had the impact, but because most of my friends now are people of color and whatnot. And without them, I feel like I wouldn't have those people as my friends today.
Another question I have for you guys is, do you know about Martin Luther King in his younger lives before he was an activist / minister?
I did not.
Okay. I also didn't either.
So if you want, you could watch it's on Hulu. It's a documentary of his life, MLK/X. A lot of people don't know that Martin Luther King actually finished college around the age of 15. It was a doctorate. Got his doctorate by 25. That's not a lot of facts that they put out there. He actually went to the HBCU, it called Morehouse College. Do you guys know about that HBCU?
Yeah, I know about it.
It's right next to another HBCU for women called Spelman. It's an all-male school. Okay, so another thing that he had a hand in, do you guys remember the bus boycotts that Martin Luther King was a part of? Mm-hmm. Okay, what can you tell me about the bus boycotts?
Well, I guess it's more of a lecture if I'm going to explain it. But the bus boycotts were basically to as an act of rebellion against the whites, like, you know, them being racist, having to sit in the back of the bus instead of sitting in the back or doing what Rosa Parks did, you know, not not sitting up from her seat. They just all together agreed to just not go on the buses together.
Okay, so to go like into more depth about the bus boycotts, a woman named Rosa Parks was getting off of work, and there was like a place where there were for coloreds and then there were for whites.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Usually it would be like if a white person needed a seat, a black person would have to get up, go to the back, or get up and get off the bus and walk. Mm-hmm. And Miss Rosa Parks did not want to. So they called the police and she was arrested. Martin Luther King came, got her out of jail, and they started the bus boycotts. We're from like December 5th, I think 55 to probably like December to like 1956. Took a whole year of people not taking the bus for them to actually use desegregation of the buses. So a lot of black people walked or like got a ride from their friends and things like that. So when the town started losing money, that's when they thought, okay, we need a change, and actually made segregation of buses. Now we get to sit wherever we want to sit at. But usually people like the back of the bus anyway. So other than bus boycotts, do you know anything Martin Luther King had his contributions in?
I don't remember exactly, but it was the thing we were talking about on the way here. How he talked about, well, it was just like his interactions with the other person, Russell Grady. And he was another civil rights activist. I'm not sure entirely what he did.
Right.
I remember talking about him. All I know about him is that he had much of an impact on New Jersey as much as he did Martin Luther King. Not as big as him, obviously, right, but a smaller one because he got a whole street named after him. He got a diner.
Every contribution matters.
Yeah. Not sure what else.
So how did you feel when you met him, when he was discussing Martin Luther King with you?
It felt like, it felt really cool because if anything, he was like the first celebrity I've met. So I looked at him and I saw like, wow, this is like actually the guy that like met Martin Luther King. And I was meeting like an actual civil rights activist. Right. And usually I only but I only learn about those people. I never actually see them in real life.
Or like get to have a conversation
seeing them in person, them. Yeah. Shook his hand, gave him a hug.
Do you want to talk more about your letter that you sent him?
More so in my letter, I wrote about how, can you believe they're making a diner after you? Can you believe they're writing a street? And I promised I'll go after the diner myself. And that was pretty much it. He responded thanking me for like wanting to go to this diner and other things like that.
Do you know where the diner was located?
Forgot.
Did you ever go to the diner?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
I think it's because at the time I was still really young, so my parents didn't really let me go out places.
Was the street in, what part of Jersey was his street built in? Was it Patterson or was it just random, like another city in New Jersey?
Somewhere in New Jersey. I don't remember exactly. If anything, I could bring the letter.
Okay. Did you ever meet an activist or anybody that was a part of the civil rights movement?
No, I haven't met anyone.
If you could meet someone, who would you choose to meet?
I'd say this. What was his name, Steven?
Russell Grady.
Yeah, I'd meet him, Russell E. Grady. One thing I wanted to add on to when he was talking, how he had wrote a letter to him. I don't think I got to write a letter about him or to him.
Right. So speaking of diner, since you brought up the diner, Martin Luther King actually had contributions in the Freedom Riders. They're really not taught in school mostly. I had to do a lot of research myself. The Freedom Riders are probably like 500 college students, and they were going around to restaurants and doing sit-ins. A sit-in is where they would sit at the restaurant and want to be served because Black people couldn't be served in certain restaurants. Some were white only, and then some were colored only.
I think that might have something to do with Grady's diner. It was supposed to like celebrate obviously the civil rights movement and stuff and how he could be served. I think it was like it's like one of the old diners that he used to go to despite not being served, I think.
Like it didn't even matter if you were in the military, served for the country, if you were a person of color or African American, they would not serve you. So sometimes it would get violent and they would call the police, and Martin Luther King himself has been beaten in certain restaurants trying to be served. And how do you guys feel about certain things like that? Like, would you think you would have been, I want to say, involved in the Freedom Riders, or do you feel like who would you have the guts to stand up for somebody like that also?
Yeah, I'd have the guts to stand up for someone like that. Because why do they have to be treated because of their skin color?
Right.
That doesn't make sense. Like if they're hungry, they need to eat.
I think for me, if it was like younger me, I would have seen it as like some kids in my school beating up one of my friends. Not that that actually happened, thankfully, but
Right.
I would have seen it as just like people beating up another person just because of like how they look or how they act.
So, do you guys know anything else? Was taught anything else in school about the civil rights movement, like other people other than just Martin Luther King Jr.?
I've learned about Claudette Colvin in online school, I remember, and how she was actually the first person to not stand up from her seat. But because of her story, it was like lesser known and like put in the shadows. And then when Rosa Parks is because Rosa Parks was just older, she looked more like an idol to people.
Right.
And Claudette Colvin was just a 15-year-old girl on the bus. And hearing her story, it just didn't have much as or I guess they think it wouldn't have much as an impact as Rosa.
Yeah. So Claudette Colvin was a 15-year-old African American girl on the bus. She was also, people say, pregnant, so they didn't think she would be idolized, and they didn't want her to be idolized for whatever reasons they had, like little girls looking up to Claudette Colvin. So people do say that the Rosa Parks was like planted or something like that.
Did she play?
I don't think
It's
she
like,
did.
despite them all trying to go after the same goal, it kind of sucks to think that they just cast aside Claudette Colvin simply because she was just a young 15, possibly pregnant 15-year-old girl,
Right.
or like an older person to just look better, which kind of sucks because when you learn about her story, it like sounds just as impactful as Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King.
I have a question. If you can watch Martin Luther King meet one person, it doesn't matter, person of color or anything, and watch them have a conversation or just watch, who do you think he would want to meet? That's a result of his impact.
That is a hard
That's a hard question. A little bit.
Do you have an answer?
I have an answer.
I would like to hear it.
I would want him to meet Barack Obama for many, many reasons. I would want him to meet the first Black president, for him to know like his impact was so great that we went from not having rights to a Black person actually running America. That probably wasn't even foreseen back in those days.
That, if anything, I think him meeting Barack Obama would like even shock him,
Mm-hmm.
or like in a good way, obviously. Because
I think he'll have a heart attack.
Probably,
yeah.
It'll be shocking.
Because they went from people not having even like Black people not even having rights to one becoming the U.S. president.
Right, and
that's like a massive
having control
jump
of the rights.
That's like a massive jump.
I think this is gonna sound a little bit ridiculous. I feel like I would like to see him have a conversation with like LeBron, because
that's crazy.
No, because
King James.
Yeah.
No, that'd be a crazy conversation though.
Because I'm sure in like the 50s and 60s, well, yeah, basketball was a thing, but now to see that one of the greatest players of all time is a Black man, I feel like that he'd be extremely proud of that.
If we're gonna relate this to athletes and stuff, I forgot her name, but she was like one of the best athletes in the Olympics.
Simone Biles?
Yeah. Her?
She does gymnastics. Okay, then Simone Biles. Like if Martin Luther King came down for a day and you were in charge of showing him certain things or introducing him to certain people, how would your day go about?
Do you have like an answer for these questions?
I do.
I want to hear it.
Okay, so
you tend to be asking a lot of the questions, but like,
yeah,
it's going by so fast for me.
Or do you need me to slow down? Like you need to, because you could think about the question.
Well, nothing comes to mind. That's the thing.
But
I'm curious on what your answer would be, though.
Okay, so if I ever met Martin Luther King, I would probably pass out first.
Okay.
And then after I wake up, I would probably show him the different schools that were named after him, because a lot of gifted and talented schools are named after him because Martin Luther King was a genius. After that, I would show him Washington and what it is now. We'll go back to where he had the speech at. I will ask him, how did he feel during the speech? Was he nervous? Did he know it was going to have a bigger impact? I would then introduce him to Barack Obama and maybe like Denzel Washington if we're going to go out of political, because that's one of the greatest Black actors. We'll probably go to a restaurant and sit and eat and probably just discuss. I would want to know the behind the scenes of the civil rights movement, not just the things that were shown. And then probably just go home and tell my mom about it. and tell my family and stuff. And then die knowing that I met Martin Luther King Jr. And I would ask him about Malcolm X and how was Rosa Parks. I've been thinking about this since I was like 5.
Since you were 5?
Yeah, like if I had a person to meet, is Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. Like politically wise, the civil rights movement, probably Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, Fred Hampton, and maybe the Black Panthers. Not the Black.
Yeah, the Black Panther Party.
Mm-hmm.
Who were they?
Okay, so the Black Panther Party was. I don't know how to say this without making it sound like it was aggressive. It was a bunch of people of color who were. I don't know if they were all Muslim, but they were Muslim party. They were attached to Malcolm X, and they were going around executing their amendment rights, meaning the license to carry. Even though Martin Luther King were more about peace and turning the other cheek, showing aggression, responding with peace, nonviolence, they were more on the side of get it done by any means necessary, and more on the aggressive, you can say, side. They stuck up for what they believed in. They didn't let nobody talk down on them. And a lot of people, actually, I know somebody that was, or family member that was a part of the Black Panther Party back in the day. But they were attached to Martin Luther King. You can see them with Muhammad Ali, the boxer. Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X were very good friends back in the day. So that's who the Black Panther Party is.
They sound kind of scary, if anything. By the way, you say that they like would get what they want, not in that they want to show their rights,
and not like get what they want, but not like attacking people, but
just in the more aggressive
wanted to
manner.
Be treated like a human, and they weren't a part of the nonviolence side of what Martin Luther King, like they would fight back, meaning, but they both just wanted the same outcome of Black people having the rights as other humans have. So I wouldn't say be scared of them or look at them like they were an aggressive party. I just think they were responding with the same treatment they were being given.
Well, you put it that way, that makes more sense.
Right.
I'm not the one talking a lot in this episode, but this is like a pretty cool, like I guess, lecture. I like learning about these other things I didn't know about before.
Same thing.
Is there anything else you want to know about? Because I'm very broad on the subject. Like I'm very educated. So is there anything else you want to know?
Is there anything you want to tell us?
Let me see. About who in specific?
Malcolm X. I guess we could start with his relationship with Martin, since this is supposed to be about Martin Luther King.
Yeah. Okay, so
mainly.
What I have learned about his relationship with Martin, even though they both was around during the same time, they only met once. Yeah. They only met once. They met in person and had a conversation once. It was a very big thing. People came, took pictures. It's photographed. And it was in the documentary MLK/X. People would like to say that Martin and Malcolm didn't get along because they were on two different sides. But it's like the same, different side of the same coin, almost. And Malcolm X was more into the rights for Muslim people, and Martin Luther King was more for the rights of every African American. It was also known that before they were assassinated, they were actually going to team up and work together towards certain things. And I think that's the reason for the assassination.
One of them, maybe.
Right.
Because I feel like if they heard that Malcolm X and Martin Luther King were going to work together, they're like, we have to stop this before it gets any worse. Or at least that was probably the ideas or thought process of white people before.
Do you feel like this podcast helped you guys? Like, did I give you guys good outlooks on Martin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did I teach you things that you didn't know?
Yep.
About Martin or the Civil Rights Movement?
Well, you definitely refreshed my memory on Martin Luther King.
And that's what I'm here to do. That's my goal. Thank you guys for coming down with me. And because y'all are always down for a podcast. And we greatly appreciate that from Compete for Life, the staff and everybody. It'd be hard to find kids that are like able to come and speak out on your own ideas and not feel judged or feel like you're pressured into doing something or make you guys say the right thing. I'm glad y'all were open about everything and wasn't scared to speak y'all piece, because that's greatly appreciated from us. And I just want to say thank you for your time and thank you for having us. And hopefully we can come here next time.
Thank you for having me here again.
Thank you for having me.
It was actually a pleasure.
Be here again.
I did.
Again.
Y'all did very well.